I'm Bridget Carey.
I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Joni Salzman.
And this is your Daily Charge. All right, Joan, can we kick things off by talking about this wild Westworld dinner that everyone's talking about?
Right, so Westworld staged some dinners by a mysterious company named Insight that's going to be playing a role in the 3rd season of the series. Insight is a data analytics collection company that managed to find enough details about every guest that came to these dinners to drop little deep cuts from our social media feeds, even down to picking our menu items for us.
Ooh,
All right, well,
wow.
here's a video showing what it was kind of like. Now, over the course of like a couple days, what they were inviting journalists, who was going to this dinner? And it was HBO obviously putting this together to promote Westworld.
Yeah, HBO's marketing executive told me they wanted this to be a sort of ephemeral thing that only invited tastemakers, people of influence. They wanted to create a thing to get people talking from these points of conversation, people that kind of spark conversation. But the point of it was to start to get people thinking about how today's tech reality isn't that far off from the Westworld fiction that we already know.
And it's interesting how basically it's kind of an invasion of privacy, right? When they're in terms of like coming in and sharing personal details, but it's kind of a reminder. It's relevant given all the talk of privacy at this show, right? Apple and Facebook having these discussions.
For sure. And my reaction to the dinner, a lot of people said I was blown away. It really creeped me out. It didn't creep me out because I'm somebody who doesn't share much about myself online. And so it was really difficult for these producers to figure out intel on me. So they didn't have much to work with me. And you know what that drove home to me is HBO, they had to do this the old-fashioned way. They had to do it by just plain old cyber stalking everyone.
Right.
When you think about how much tech giants we've voluntarily given them, they have way more intel on us, and they're able to use it in a way that defies human possibilities. They have AIs.
Right.
They have these fictional strategy engines to come up with all the stuff that HBO tried to reproduce in this dinner.
So the scariest part is the fiction here is nowhere near as extensive as our reality, right?
The fiction is much cuddlier than what we're dealing with right now.
What were some of the things that like these Insight employees were saying to the guests at dinner that was freaking people out, for those that did give a lot of information?
Well, so one of the people that I sat with at dinner, he is, I think, a YouTube kind of personality. He's a tech journalist. And our Insight sort of representative who was hosting us for the evening was named Anthony. And at one point, Anthony came up and just put his hands on the back of Michael's shoulders and said, I mean, this is imagine if you'd actually joined the military back when you were 16 or 18.
Whoa.
Yeah, so like they were, and that one actually, that kind of like, that blew his hair back a little bit when that happened.
Yeah, we did. I talked to a couple of our colleagues who went as well, and I mean, they seemed blown away. Obviously, they share a lot more on social media, so I guess it really is. It was really built upon how much you're willing to share, right?
also
And I
have
think
a
they were
theory.
sitting people together, from what I heard, that like had things in common to like come up to them and like and say like, oh, you might have this in common with this person. And
They were, I think they might have been kind of brokering introductions. We were seated at tables that were, we had place settings that said where you're supposed to sit, and so I imagine that but the other interesting thing is that there was a plant at every table. There was an actor at every table that pretended to just be another guest, but was actually part of the game.
Yeah,
so
I think
they
one of
were-
our colleagues thought there was maybe a bug or something at the table.
Well,
listening in on our
it's
conversation.
possible.
Right.
That's possible too. But mostly, no. I think they relied on just plain old, natural human ingenuity to make these things come to life.
And now this is new at CES, but they've done this before at Comic-Con. I think a couple of years back, they kind of blew everyone away with these psychological tests that
Right.
were also very immersive, and everyone ended up with like a cowboy hat, and that was like the thing to have at Comic-Con.
Right. So definitely Westworld and HBO. When I talked to the marketing executive that helped put this on, he said that they wanted to have it at CES this year because the next season of Westworld is bringing things out of Westworld, out of the park and into reality. So they wanted to start to bring these activations into the reality of the tech industry.
It doesn't get more real than CES, right?
It gets real at CES.
That's not the only like streaming news too. Can we quickly go over what you learned about Quibi? This is the new streaming service that not many people know about, but it has a big names and big money behind it.
Yeah, it's the weird streaming service that you've never heard of, but they're trying to change that by coming to CES. Quibi is a mobile-only, short-form, high-end subscription video service. They've got projects from Chrissy Teigen, The Rock, from Steven Spielberg, Guillermo del Toro, J.J. Abrams. I can go on and on and on, the amount of talent that they've recruited, because they're backed by all the Hollywood studios. They've got a lot of money. They're spending it on really high-quality stuff. The question is, are people willing to pay for short-form content when YouTube is drawing in 2 billion people every month?
Right, and one of the hooks, though, is this idea that you can turn the screen to kind of interact with it. Is that? Well, tell me a bit about that. How's that?
Like
How's
if you're
that work?
watching on your phone, it'll know. You mean?
Well, no, like you can actually interact with the video, make choices, I think, based on how you turn the phone.
They do have some interesting technology for viewing on your phone. It is a mobile-only service, and so they have this technology called Turnstile. And the way that it works is when you're in landscape, like you normally would be for a video that's shot, like a movie that's shot in that aspect ratio, it fills the full screen. But when you go to portrait, it's edited and shot in a way that it never shrinks down to one portion of your screen. It's always full screen. And there are series that are using that to interesting advantages. There's this series called Wireless, where whenever you're in landscape mode, you're seeing the filmed action that's taking place. But when you switch to portrait, you switch to a viewpoint of looking at the protagonist's phone itself. So if there's someone who rings their Ring doorbell and is at their front door, the protagonist is sitting on the couch, you can watch her talking to the person, or you can watch what that person's actually doing as they break the glass to try to break into the house.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And it kind of reminds me of the Samsung Zero TV, by the way, because the giant TV that rotates based on orientation. But to be clear, you're saying Quibi does not work on televisions, right?
Quibi is mobile only, but I asked Meg Whitman, many people know her as the former leader of eBay, led HP. She is the CEO of Quibi. And I asked her about the Samsung Zero TV, and she kind of smiled, and she said, we have deep relationships with Samsung. We think we might have influenced them a little in development, which I don't know.
I think we have some video of the Zero TV too. Yeah, we can roll that. For anyone who doesn't know, this is something that, like, if you want, you could just rotate it. There's Jason Heiner who was showing it off on the show floor.
Doesn't quite work as quickly as you'd want it for a video like this, I imagine.
No,
but
you really want that kind of mobile quick reaction for something like Wireless. But I asked them, would Quibi work on Sarah? And they said, we didn't really conceive of this to be on walled gigantic televisions, but if there's one that can do what we're offering, then sure, why not?
I mean, I will say that the subscription charge for short form, that is going to be a big hindrance. I think initially when I heard about Quibi the rotating thing, I thought about Go90, which is not, I know it's not the same thing, but like Go90 failed miserably for Verizon, and that was free short form content, and they're going to make us pay for that.
It costs $5 a month if you're willing to sit through ads, and $8 a month if you want it ad free.
This is short form content. How many ads can you cram to
Well, that's
5
the
10
thing.
minutes?
That because of this thing, like the turnstile flipping full screen technology, Pepsi is one of their partners in advertising, and Pepsi was on stage yesterday saying, we like this because it makes our ads look beautiful, but also they're keeping their ad load very low, which means they're not having a lot of commercials. They're just charging a lot for the ones that they have.
Sure.
Well, let's go from sci-fi dinners and entertainment of the future to actual future tech built by LG. I always love it every year when David Katzmauer gets to go into the LG concept booth. So we can roll some of the footage of the things he saw. He doesn't disappoint, and once again, start off with some airplane.
Yeah, so the LG display, every year they try to find a creative way to show off their display technology. This year they built a first-class cabin, and you see Katz there looking at the screen. The 65-inch display here, by the way, curves in and out based on your preference. The display that's right next to him, like closest to us, that blacks in and out based on your privacy. Like it'll actually pop up or go clear if you want to contact the flight attendant.
Yeah, I mean, like when they zoom out, there's that partition,
There's a partition.
So like it's see-through. So if you want to go to sleep and have some
privacy. If you
privacy.
want to go privacy, it can go opaque, so you can block off the world. They have the displays on the other side, which I guess are supposed to represent the windows, and then there's sort of a curve towards the top, and really kind of creates the idea that it's LG. It's very self-serving. It's like, look at all the cool things we could do with the display, but It's just kind of fascinating to me the different applications that they use here, and that folding and unfolding TV. That's kind of cool because there are a lot of folks who don't like the curved TV, but if they could curve it or uncurve it, I like that option.
Yeah, and there's also this speaker that they were showing off.
Yes.
That had curved screen technology in it, which
Yeah,
is kind of neat. One was just kind of plain. Here's the video here, but the other one
Yes.
used almost lenticular layers to create this 3D effect over it. So I see that as being kind of a fun way to jazz up a speaker. I mean, these things aren't coming out. These are concepts, but he said it reminded him a little bit of the televisions that were 3D without the glasses. Now, so in a small form factor for a little entertainment in the corner,
it kind of looks like a Echo speaker, right? Like you can sort of see this in a generation 10 or 11 speaker, like these crazy 3D images, right?
And there were also concept screens for cars, like a car dash, essentially. I mean, I don't want so many screens in my cars, but hey, this is concept,
right.
so let's have fun with the future.
At CES, we can't have enough screens here at CES.
And it'll all be different when the cars drive themselves.
Right.
That is true.
Yeah,
Screens will be much more friendly.
Yeah, they're thinking ahead. They know you're going to want the screens when you're kicking back and just watching.
I want screens on the
watching
inside
Quibi
of
on
every
TV.
Right.
Yeah, there were all sorts of things on the dashboard and lots of controls. So it's always neat stuff. I think, though, right now, it's time for us to take a break. But when we come back, we're going to go over some new robot pets and the wild tech that left an impression on us. Stick around. Welcome back to the Daily Charge. Now, robots are always a big part of CES, and for me, I'm always really curious about where the future's heading with companion robots. Robots that'll give us companionship, company, maybe even help around the house. But I got to see a new type of robot pet. It's a bionic cat called the Mars cat, and we have some footage of it right now, but this is not as polished as Sony's Aibo. I'll start off there.
Yeah, that was my first question right there.
Yeah. We're not at that level. I mean, Sony's Aibo is like $3,000. We're talking $650 for this Kickstarter, though. And what got me really interested with it is that it's really showing the path of how here's a small enterprise that is making something for about $650. It's going to have it has Raspberry Pi inside. It's going to be customizable, programmable. But the sensors are a little similar to what you remember with Aibo. You got a camera in the nose. It's recognizing faces. You got, you can pet it and it'll react. But what's funny is that they make a cat, and, cats in the real world don't always listen to us. So it's almost like an easy out when oh, yeah, it did listen to your command because it's a cat. Like, okay.
Wait, so it's programmable. Can it be programmed to, attack things?
It can be programmed to do certain actions with certain voice commands, and you can make those voice commands. They say it's about 20 or so commands, and they'll have things preset, but you can tinker with this. So it's not really at the stage where it's going to be something to keep grandma company. It's only 3 hours of battery life, and they're still working things out. They're working on a base station that it'll go to for recharging. But it's really interesting for robotic enthusiasts, but
I'm curious, who's the target market? Is it for families? Is it for kids? What it's not exactly for the elderly, right?
No, we're not there yet. That's why I like looking at this with my future glasses on. What can we do, in smaller scales? I mean, this is rough around the edges, right? But they already, with their Kickstarter campaign, say that they're going to start shipping the early ones out in 3 months to the first backers. And he's even working on a dog, and it's it's just one of those things that you say you want to see companionship in pets. Where can we do? Katie Collins at CNET got to check out another type on the other aspect of this that is more for companionship, and it's for therapy. So this is a dog called Jenny. And it has fur, and it's here's a video of it.
And it looks, from certain angles, it looks scarily lifelike, right?
This is really designed for seniors with dementia.
Yes.
And it's really heartwarming how this is just for, keeping company, calming someone down. And the inventor invented it because of his mother.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot on our tech-enabled package. The value and the power that something like this actually has for folks. There is actually kind of recuperative effects psychologically and even physically from something like this. And Katie, by the way, just loves dogs, so this was like her dream assignment here.
Yeah, and to be clear, like this is not a dog that's walking around your house. It's
Right.
just for the lab,
Right.
And that's the difference, right? Like one is kind of going for entertainment,
Yep.
and having a little fun with it, and also with the cat, its personality changes depending on like your interaction. So when you're talking like this and you're happy and you want to talk a lot, it'll be more active. Like there was one at the booth that was lazy, and I was like really bored with it. I'm like, all right, fine, be the lazy cat that ignores me. And the other one was more active because it was talked to more. So yeah, these types of things are becoming more and more possible, and you don't have to be a giant company like Sony to invest and make something like this. So that's kind of cool. I talked about that because I like looking at things with the future, but I wanted to get your takes after being here for so many days.
Yep.
What were some of the other things that you saw that made you kind of do a double take on like where we're heading, even if it's
Right.
not polished right now?
Not polished at all. This is the Samsung Selfie Type. We talked about artificial intelligence a lot this show. This one actually uses AI. It uses your selfie cam to scan your hands, and you're basically typing on an invisible keyboard, and it uses artificial intelligence to kind of determine where your finger placement is to actually predictively figure out what letter you're looking to type. Right now, totally impractical, very much in the prototype stage, but it's really a really cool use of AI and kind of practical for folks like us who end up having to write a lot, especially in the field. I can imagine one day, like at CES, I'd like prop up my phone and just start typing a full story. That's kind of cool. As a writer, it's purely selfish for me, but I think that's pretty cool.
I don't know how I'll have the right memory of like knowing what key
Well,
is what,
the thing
but
is, you
like,
do have muscle memory for,
Yeah.
for keyboards. It's just you're a little disoriented because there's no keyboard there, right?
Right.
But like, I guess that's where the AI kicks in and kind of helps out with that.
But then again, kids now are dictating more with their voice than I
True.
I like, so like it's always a different generation that like it's used to something. Well, Joan, tell me about what kind of left an impression on you.
Well, at CES, there's a lot of talk about how we can create technology that's going to make the future better. And there's a lot of ways that we can do that. Helping people that are elderly and feeling lonely is a really great thing. But I do think that one of the most dire things that faces us as a species is our planet is getting really warm. And so one of the things that I really enjoyed was going to the Impossible Foods presser where they introduced their new Impossible Pork and talked about their Impossible Sausage. We focus so much in technology on technology that's hard with wires and chips that can solve problems like that. But this is something where the problem isn't being solved by a technology like that. It's just changing something that's destructive so it doesn't need to be part of the system anymore.
Yeah, we have video we're showing here of the new pork that is kind of like ground up. How would you? I mean, you got to taste it. I didn't get to taste this.
I haven't
yet,
tasted it. I'm really curious what that's like.
Well, it tasted good. That said, I've been a vegetarian for a really long time, so I haven't tasted real pork in like 15 years, maybe more. So I can't do a comparison of, it's really like the real thing. But I mean, it was also prepared at like this Japanese restaurant, Kumi, that the chefs there, I'm sure,
Are phenomenal.
So it all tasted really good. And the people that were there that do have eaten pork, they said they enjoyed it too.
I'd say that's a trick for Impossible Foods, right? Whenever they're presenting this stuff, they have like the highest possible quality chefs and ingredients, and it's just, But I'm very excited about it. You talked to them and you asked about bacon, right, as a possibility.
Yeah, so the CEO of Impossible Foods was asked, first question that he was asked this presser is, what about bacon?
Yes.
And he said, basically, if there's a meat that you like, we are trying to make it. And he said that they're definitely making strides towards a bacon. But he said the only way they'll release it is if it will impress the most hardcore bacon lover like Roger Chang right here.
I've got lots of bacon in my office. It's crazy. Bacon paraphernalia.
Well, thank you guys for joining us on the Daily Charge. This has been a really big show. I'm glad we got to talk about these things that actually are changing the world.
Yep.
So thank you. And that's it for this one. But don't go anywhere. All right. So I'm Bridget Carey.
I'm Roger Chang.
I'm Joni Salzman.